Now, what does Jehovah Nissi? What does that mean to us today? This declaration of Moses that he made is one that any follower of Christ today, I think, can express. The Lord is my banner. And when we declare it, what does that mean? Basically, what we're saying is, God is my victory. He's who I need to celebrate. And what it means on a more personal level, it means that God doesn't leave us to fight our battles alone. That's what God wanted the Israelites to remember. See, we think that because God is with us, maybe we should be free from problems and struggles in our life. But we all know that's not how it goes. And when the Israelites faced the Amalekites, even though they were former slaves and not experienced soldiers, God fought with them and for them, and as a result, they were victorious. Well, I know sometimes when we encounter difficulties, we may feel inadequate for the battles that we face. But that's when you and I also need to remember that we never fight alone. And ultimately, God promises victory. And the reason we know that is because in Matthew chapter 28, when Jesus left this earth, the last word he had for his disciples before he went back into heaven, he says, "Surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." That's why I know his presence is still here, because it's not the end of the age. He is with us. And so when we encounter difficulties, instead of wondering where God went, which is sometimes what happens, something bad happens in our life and we think, God, where did you go? Instead of wondering where he went, we need to remember that he's right there. He's our Jehovah Nissi. He's right there with us. And then we need to remember if God is for us, it doesn't matter what comes against us. And the Apostle Paul reminds us of that in Romans chapter 8, verse 31. He says, "What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us?" And folks, that means no matter how inexperienced or undermatched we are, we're never the underdogs. It probably feels that way, but we're never the underdogs. See, recognizing God as our banner means that we understand that God is with us and that He is for us. But I think there's also something else it means in light of this story. I think it means also that God expects us to join Him as He works on our behalf. Sometimes we would just wish God would come in and take care of everything for us. Did you hear, I'm pretty sure you have, that someone actually won the $2 billion Lotto jackpot this last week? Some of you were sad. Well, if you've heard that, you've probably heard about the guy who kept praying and praying, "God, please let me win the lottery. Just once. Please let me win the lottery." And this went on week after week, month after month, year after year. "God, please let me win the lottery." And finally, there was this booming voice that rumbled down from above, "Hey, at least meet me halfway. Buy a ticket." Now, I tell that story, and I got to share. I'm not in any way promoting the lottery. Okay, that's not my point. My point is sometimes we're saying, "God, show up, take care of me, show up." And God's saying, "Hey, actually, you need to participate." See, we can depend on God for victory, but we're going to have to do our part. And Israel, if you remember, he was victorious, or they were victorious, as long as Moses held the rod of God aloft. But the Israelites were still doing what? They were still fighting the battle, and Moses still had to keep his arms raised. Now, why did God do it that way? I have absolutely no idea, other than it clearly demonstrated to them that victory wasn't in their strength alone, that they needed to bring God into the mix. And I think that might have been why in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus makes a very interesting statement to his followers in Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. Jesus says, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and that's when you'll find. Knock, and that's when the door will be open to you." In other words, you've got to participate. "For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be opened." In other words, God's telling us you got to get in the game. You got to do your part, ask and seek and knock and whatever else.